Hey guys, welcome to Ryan's Running Reviews. I gotta say, Asics is coming out with some great updates, and today we're taking a look at the Asics Gel-Cumulus 24. Let's run with it. Before we get started, I do want to say these shoes were provided to me by Roadrunner Sports. However, I didn't have a chance to preview this video, and this final synopsis is my own. I'd also like to say leave a like on the video and consider subscribing. Here we go. The Asics Gel-Cumulus 24 got some major updates. We get a complete redesign this year. And if you're not familiar with this particular model, it's basically Asics $130 classic neutral mid-cushion road running daily training shoe. So it kind of handles it all, can tackle a wide variety of runs, and it's kind of meant as your jack of all trades running shoe. As far as the weight goes, we go from 10.9 ounces down substantially to about 10.1. So we do lose quite a bit of weight this year with this update. Now, is 10.1 ounces the lightest daily training shoe out there? No, but I think you do get a lot of premium materials, a lot of plush comfort. So at 10.1 ounces, that's actually not that bad, and they've kind of dropped it a lot from last year. So I'm happy to see they're moving in the right direction. And personally, I don't feel like you give up anything, even though you lose quite a bit of weight. As far as the stack height goes, we get 24 millimeters in the heel, 16 in the forefoot for a new updated drop of 8 millimeters. They added 2 more millimeters of cushion in the forefoot, so they basically dropped the drop, there's my joke for the review, to 8 millimeters. So we go down 2 millimeters with regard to drop and up 2 millimeters with regard to forefoot cushioning. Moving on to the upper, we get a jacquard mesh, which I really like, very comfortable, keeps my foot well contained and fits very nicely. It was true to size for me, but if you made me pick between a little bit tight and a little bit loose, I'd probably lean a little bit tight. It just has a more snug nature, which I personally like. So if you want a little bit extra room, just keep that in mind. But otherwise, it fit true to size with a slight, lean towards, a more snug fit. And with regard to the breathability, it's not ideal, not the best. You do have some ventilation in the toe box, but even that isn't like super ideal just because the jacquard mesh is rather thick. So as we get into some of the summer months, I think that's something to keep in mind. However, I will say I do like the fit and comfort level of the upper. It's just not the most breathable. Moving on to the tongue, it's your classic Asics setup, moderate amount of cushioning, gusseted through the bottom 2/3, and just works. Not as exciting as the tongue we saw on the Nimbus, but this one does work very well. Now with regard to the lacing, very robust, kind of your typical Asics lacing pattern, and I had no issues with it as well. It does provide a nice secure lockdown through the midfoot with plenty of customization options. And moving to the back of the shoe, we do get kind of what you see with most Asics, a ton of padding and a really well built heel counter. Internal heel counter fits well, keeps your ankle and Achilles kind of all locked in place. The robust lacing system, the tongue, I think is just kind of like your typical Asics experience. I really liked it. It had that plush premium feel, and I think if you've tried an Asics, you'll probably be familiar with what this feels like. The jacquard mesh might be a little bit different, but I feel like that works very nice as well. Not the most breathable, but just has a really nice seamless feel. No blisters or anything like that, and I think they just kind of kept with what works. And on the back of the heel counter, we have these 2 silver pieces, which are reflective for nighttime running, and there is unfortunately no pull tab, which I think may be a bummer for some people. Moving on to the midsole, I know it all looks the same, but it's actually dual density or triple density if we want to include the gel. So this top blue piece here, and it's kind of hard to see because there's a line that the paint changes, but essentially this piece where it starts here, my finger, and then wraps all the way around to the medial side is FlyteFoam, which is going to be a little bit more dense, a little bit harder, or a little bit more firm. And then you also get FlyteFoam Blast, which makes up the bottom half of the heel, and then the rest of the forefoot. Now, FlyteFoam Blast, I think, is a great foam. A lot of people love it. I personally really enjoyed it, and it debuted on the Nova Blast 1, which is over there in the corner, and that was kind of the big explosion where Asics was getting into some new materials and new foams. They've been slowly starting to integrate it on a wide variety of shoes, now bringing it to this model here. Now, they also have a FlyteFoam Blast Plus, which we see on the Nimbus, which is going to be even softer, lighter, and bouncier, but I think for most models, a FlyteFoam Blast is going to work really well, and I think it does a great job here. And this is the Gel-Cumulus, so we have to talk about the gel. And it's still in the heel area, kind of wraps around, and then you also do get a small dot in the forefoot for some extra impact protection. Now, some people swear by this technology. They say they love it, can't live without it, and some people say they can't feel it. Personally, for me, I really kind of can't feel it, or I don't notice it, or at least I don't think I do. So it is kind of more an aesthetic touch for me, and I try to, do different little tests and everything, see if I can notice the gel, and it's kind of hard because there are so many different components, but they did include the gel nonetheless. With regard to the overall ride of the shoe, I thought thought it performed very well. I'm a big fan of the FlyteFoam Blast. It's going to be a lot softer, lighter, and bouncier compared to previous years. You notice it mostly in the forefoot, mainly because the top layer of blue foam at the back of the shoe is just FlyteFoam, which kind of mutes the overall sensation of the FF Blast. But overall, it's a really nice experience. Again, it can be a little bit lighter, cushier, and bouncier compared to previous versions, and just feels nice on foot. The upper kind of keeps you well connected to the midsole. The FF Blast foam, which was a big winner again with the Nova Blast, definitely shines through on this shoe, and I'm a big fan of it. And the other thing I'll say is this shoe is rather flexible. You can kind of bend, twist, or flex the shoe any way you want. Unlike the Nimbus, there is no plastic kind of torsion bar in the middle of the shoe, so it does kind of bend with your foot and is very flexible. Now with regard to the stability, it's not unstable, and it's not like a super stable neutral shoe. It kind of fits right down the middle, just because you do have the FlyteFoam on the medial side, which gives you a little bit more stability, but overall the shoe is rather flexible and kind of moves with your foot very well. And moving on to the outsole, it should look familiar, especially if you're a fan of the Nimbus. We do get some flex grooves in the forefoot, which again contribute to why this shoe is so flexible. And there are two different kinds of rubber. A softer, I think they call it like Asics light rubber in the forefoot, which is supposed to be lighter and just as durable as conventional rubber. And then AHAR Plus, which is going to be a harder, more dense rubber in the heel area for additional wear. Personally, didn't have any issues with it. Gripped the ground well. I thought it performed well. You get full ground contact, and I really didn't have any issues either way. So I think it kind of performs in line with like the Nimbus and other Asics models. Didn't really have something to kind of move the needle either way, if that makes sense. So those are all the basic facts about this shoe. Let's talk about what I liked about the shoe and what I didn't like so much. The first big positive for me is the overall value in build quality. For $130, I think this is an excellent buy. You get premium materials. The upper is really well made, and that FlyteFoam Blast material should last you quite a while. So for, again, 130 bucks, I think it's a great option, especially if you need one shoe to kind of last quite a while. The next big positive for me was the FF Blast foam. I thought this was a great update. It doesn't feel as dull or as boring or like a brick compared to like some other EVA foams that are just not as exciting. So this has a nice level of softness to it and is very versatile. I think it does well at those faster paces as seen by the Nova Blast model, and I think it works well here too. Now this isn't like a fast shoe, it's a nice versatile daily trainer, so it's not like gonna be like your next PR, but it definitely feels nice on a kind of a standard daily trainer like this. It feels like they're kind of elevating a lot of their shoe game with these new midsoles, and it really does work well with the upper too, just because their Asics is known for their classic uppers or their more traditional well-built uppers. So to have a nice smooth flowing shoe, especially with FF Blast foam, was a big plus for me. And the last positive for me was the comfort level of the upper. Helped me feel very connected to the shoe, which I think is a critical piece. Kind of helps you kind of engage with the overall experience. Didn't have any movement, had an excellent lockdown, and just felt very comfortable. And for all day wear, I had no issue with it. However, the shoe wasn't perfect, and there are a couple things that can probably be improved upon. The first negative for me was the back of the midsole. This extra section here was just a little bit clunky when walking. So when I was running, I didn't have any issues with it. I thought it performed well, didn't really notice it, but when walking, when I was heel striking, sometimes it would kind of push the internal heel counter kind of against my heel. Not a huge issue, and I didn't notice it too often, but it just felt a little bit, I just overbuilt, and I wish they maybe had a different geometry or bevel to it. So again, when I was heel striking, it just wouldn't push, or I wouldn't notice it as much. It just felt like a little bit of a strange sensation. Again, not a huge issue, not something that was causing pain or irritation. It just felt kind of strange, and I wish it was just a little bit more smooth for walking purposes. Again, running, it is a running shoe, so if you only run in your running shoes, won't be an issue. I just thought when walking in the shoe, it had just a little bit of a weird sensation when I was heel striking on my walking gait. I think that's the right word. The next negative for me was the breathability. It's not the most well-ventilated shoe, and as we get into some of the summer months, I could see that being a problem for some runners. Again, the mesh does have some ventilation in the toe box, but the rest of it is well enclosed, and it's a rather thick engineered mesh, so it will keep everything kind of well contained. So again, not the most breathable, and it does have a ton of padding, which if you sweat a lot, I guess can absorb it and become more of a heavy shoe. So just something to keep in mind if you've never really tried an Asics upper like this before. Well, where does that leave us? Well, I have no problem recommending this shoe. There's no fatal flaws, and actually I really do enjoy running in this shoe. I think it's probably on the more recommend side of things. Now with regard to the weight, it's a little bit heavier for some daily trainers, not the most breathable, and doesn't have kind of the fastest profile, but overall for a solid, reliable daily trainer to put just a ton of miles into, and for a wide variety of running options, I think this is a great option to use. The new FlyteFoam Blast foam, I've been saying it all day, I think it does a great job, provides a nice level of energy return and impact protection, and just feels very nice on foot. And the upper has a nice fit to it, true to size. It makes you feel very connected to the shoe itself. Had a great time in it. I think it works as a great jack of all trades, kind of your standard, typical daily training running shoe. So if that's what you're looking for, I think this is the way to go. I'm really happy with updates they made, and I'm excited to see what they kind of bring out with the next iterations of other Asics models. Well, that concludes my review. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Gel-Cumulus 24. Is it a try? Are you a big fan of the gel? Do you like the direction Asics is going in general? Let me know what you think. Well, I'm Ryan from Ryan's Running Reviews. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll catch you guys on the next one.